Next. Oh, this is the one that when I found out the winner earlier this evening, I have to say I've been on cloud nine. It's the Virtuoso Award. It's sponsored by the Carlin Music Group. Of course, it's been renamed, rightly so, the Chris Squire Virtuoso Award. And to tell you who the winner is and a little bit about him is Spinal Tap bassist extraordinaire Derrickson Hubbins, the natural successor, ladies and gentlemen, to Chris Squire, I would suggest. It's Harry Shearer!
Thank you very much, and thank you, Miss Sweden. She is amused. I'm thrilled to be here.
It's got to be.
I of course, would be more thrilled to be performing Stonehenge tonight, but that's not happening. So I'm going to get on with it. Unfortunately, the winner of this award is a fairly colorless individual. Person with no distinctive characteristics, so I'm going to have to really work hard to say something interesting about it for the next few minutes because there's really not much there. But I'll try. There are two towering figures in British music by the name of Thompson, neither of them twins. I was pleased to, my wife Judith Owen was working with Richard Thompson, and Richard created this amazing suite of songs called Cabaret of Souls, and I was invited to be the narrator because Richard had heard that I did narrating cheap, and it was at the rehearsals for that show that I had the opportunity to meet this man for the first time, and it was a great honor to be in Richard's show and to do that music, but the friendship that came out of that meeting was really the gold that emanated from that whole experience. As you probably know, it's an understatement to say that this man deserves the Prog Rock Award. He also deserves the Folk Rock Award, the Jazz Rock Award, the Arena Rock Award. He has stood like a giant astride British music for an incredible amount of time, ever since he and his soulmate, Vicky, met up when he was 18 years old. It's been the only instrument he's played ever since, so he says, although I firmly believe that there is a big warehouse in Watford with 15 Victorias, identical basses that he calls upon as he needs to. In a world full of technique, he is a musician who plays with impeccable and compulsory and propulsive time, with incredible melodic invention, and with endless heart. He's a teacher, he's a mentor, he's a leader, but more than that, like all great musicians, he is first and foremost a great listener. And more than that, I'm pleased and proud to say that he is a great friend. I'm honored to call him my mate. The Virtuoso Award goes to Mr. Danny Thompson. A diamond geezer.
Harry Shearer. Do I take him up? I don't want that, I'll have you.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, it's yours.
He's a great mate of Derek Smalls. Another great bass player, which reminds me that Chris Squire would be really pleased to know that a mate of Derek Smalls was here. I met. This comes with the name Chris Squire attached to it, which means an awful lot to me because I'm pretty embarrassed and a bit flattered to receive this as a compliment, and I'd like to thank Prog and mainly I'd like to thank Prog for what they do for the younger musicians who are trying desperately in this really miserable world at the moment to try and get somewhere and wake up in the morning as I do and say, I'm going to play music today. It's not a gift that's available for everybody, but because of magazines like Prog and the people behind it, I'm not thanking Prog because it's a great magazine with great literary content. I'm thanking them for the things that I don't know what they do behind the scenes. And we know the enormous amount of work that must go on there. I want to thank my damager, who sticks by me, Mr. Paul Crockford, and the lovely assistant, Brie Ishikawa. I also want to thank Lisa Cope, who was the assistant at PCM, who now works with Roadrunner. And it also, I've got to thank all those people that allowed me over the last 60 years to put my 2 penn'orth in serving their songs, you know. And this is usually the kiss of death to get one of these. Because people think, oh, he's going to be a Billy Big Fish now. Well, I'm not. Phone me, I'll do it.
Guiding Lights, not a television song, but a category. I guess it's a category. It's sponsored by Currencies. It's worth saying that, otherwise Peter Rose will kill me. In slow moods. Where would we be without guiding lights? Is the question, and I know the answer. It's in the fucking dark. So to tell us a little bit more about the winner. Welcome, please, the Caped Crusader of the keyboards, Mr. Rick Wakeman.
Where's that you in? Jerry, stand up a minute.
Yes, sir.
Top man. Now hold on, not you, the suit. When I saw you walking up the road here, wearing that, you look like you've just been released from prison, and the suit had been in a box for about 3 years. I want a picture of that. Marvellous. It's lovely to be back, and I'm going to be on my best behaviour tonight, I've been told. And, no, man, well, as I was pulling my boxes off last night, I couldn't help thinking to myself, my God, I spoil these dogs. But losing... Sorry, I'll behave now. One of the things that actually I thought about this year, in all seriousness, obviously for me, being a part of Yes for so many years, to lose Chris was not just unexpected, but it sort of brings a lot home to you. And Chris and I used to have some great laughs, and one of the things we used to laugh about quite genuinely was about medicals, because we were both crap at them, so Chris, I don't think ever had a medical in his life. And I actually had to have one this year. This is absolutely true. For these men who, once you reach pensionable age, you have to have various orifices examined by sort of doctors and things. And it ain't very nice, really. It's not good. And I went along. No, it's not funny. I went along, and the doctor, he was all right. And you get to that bit where you have to drop everything, and he grabs hold of your sort of fun time Freddy and all the bits around it. And you stand there, you try and think of something, anything really. And he said, it's absolutely true, he said to me, it's all right, Mr. Wakeman, it's not unusual to have an erection during this procedure. And I said, I haven't got an erection. He said, no, but I have. Yeah, it's tricky. The whole medical went wrong, actually. They're not funny. I mean, you know the bits, I'm sure some of you men about it, when you have to go in, it's the dragon where you hear the marigold gloves go on. And I was put into this room, they said, wait there, the doctor will be in it, some of you in to do it, not some in there, and you have to get in the old fetal position, you drop the strides, and you come in, you hear the slap of the medic, and you think, oh my God, he's been up there a long time. And after about 5 minutes, he didn't say anything, after about 5 minutes, I took the gloves off, dropped him in the bin, and he's walking out the door, and a nurse came in and looked at him and said to me, who was that? The medical just got from bad to worse. You had these medicals.
I've heard the medical. It's a tragedy. It's wasted on Miss Sweden because she doesn't understand a fucking word.
No, you don't. Do you not speak then? No? I've got a few of my daughter, I'll still be bathing you. Now, the final thing, they said to me, we've got to do a sperm count. Did you ever done a sperm count? It's the most embarrassing thing. They've got all these cubicles, and you can pick up the grubby mag. I wouldn't have minded, but half the pages were mics. One of us were in most of them. You pick up a grubby mag, and I look, there's all these guys in these grubby little cubicles doing what you have to do in a little bottle. And I'm walking along, and I passed quite a posh one, and there was a guy lying on the bed, and there was a nurse doing it for him. And I said, what's it? Oh, yeah, it was Booper. Yeah. Why am I up here? Oh, I know. It's an award, isn't it? Yeah. This man, when Jerry asked me if I'd do it, I was genuinely very, very thrilled. He's been a mate for 45 years, and he truly is the sixth member of Yes, in the same way that George Martin was very much the fifth member of the Beatles. Because Roger managed to, Roger Dean, of course, who I'm talking about, managed to put into art Yes's music somehow. It was absolutely amazing. And we just loved him from word go. He's become a tremendous friend. He wasn't always painting the wonderful surrealistic paintings that he does now. I was told by somebody he actually started painting pub signs, is where he started. And there's a famous one in Essex that he did, still The Discontented Virgin, I think it's called. No, the Halfway In, that's the one. And he's done all sorts of, but Roger, I've been down to watch Roger paint in his studio, and it is quite remarkable to watch how he works, quite genuinely, because he absorbs the music, he absorbs the people, the band. He leaves no stone unturned when he's doing these wonderful masterpieces. And it's so fantastic for me that he's being honoured tonight, because he has given so much both to me and to help me with my music, with his art form, as he has done to Yes and many, 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 many other bands. And he deserves this tremendously. Would you please welcome Mr. Roger Dean.
Weapons grade, isn't it? It's a great honour. Thank you very much. I was a little bit suspicious when I got invited down for this thing tonight, and I'm thrilled to bits. It's probably the first award I've ever had for an album cover, or related to art for music, but I'm very grateful. Thank you very much indeed.
Hello everyone. Jerry, thank you for asking me to present this award. I don't think you really knew what you were doing when you asked me to do this. I'll keep my close up. The problem is, for me now, I have to overcome the the likelihood I'm going to become a simpering fanboy, because this gentleman had a very big influence on my own musical trajectory through his work in electronica and ambient music. His guitar techniques and production are quite extraordinary. And we listened to his music on the road, Stephen Wilson and I, and the rest of the band also a lot. I would like to present this award to the exemplary Mr. Bill Nelson.
Like a square peg in a round hole, like a pump without its strings, like a sailor who sails no oceans, like a bird that has no wings. Without love, I have no treasures. Without love, I like to live. Without love, I have no treasures. Without love, my chances slim. Without love, here we are.
Well, my ploy to become the invisible man of rock has failed again. I'm glad somebody noticed, and I'd like to say how thrilled and pleased I am to have an award. It's the first time I've ever had an award. And I'd like to thank Jerry and his team for being aware of what I do and presenting this to me. And thank you to Nick. I know that Nick's been a fan for a while, and thank you to my wife, Amiko, for putting up with a guy who thinks having a holiday is taking an extra 10 days in the studio.
Achievement, the penultimate award for this evening. It's sponsored by Prog Rocks, and it's destined to go to someone or a band who would have spent their whole lives making music, advancing the cause of prog. Here to tell us a little bit about the band and perhaps how Michael Eavis ended up with such a strange beard is Prog Magazine's lead writer, author of many, many books on Peter Gabriel, Sparks, Chic, to name a few. It's Darryl Easley. Come on up.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What a lovely night we're having. Yes? It's an absolute pleasure to be asked to present this award. I think in the words of the poets and philosophers, the Pointer Sisters, I'm so excited I'm about to lose control, and I think I like it. I'm sure some of you in the room are aware of social media. A common standby post these days is from someone lucky enough to be in or on the fringes of show business of a certain age, and they write a post which starts, if my teenage self only knew what I'd be doing today, he wouldn't have believed it. You can probably guess what my post home on the Vomit Comet tonight will be. The recipients of this year's Lifetime Achievement Award released a double live album in the 1970s. I realise that narrows it down to at least 250 of you in this room. But I bought it with my 11th birthday money, and I, like many, listened enraptured. Back then, I had no idea what contrapuntal meant, but that and pretentious were two words I learnt as a teenage fan of this group. Contrapuntal was frequently used to describe their music. Their sense of humour subtly deflated critics of their contrapuntal music by having the word pretentious as a flashing neon sign behind them on stage. In the select club of UK progressive bands, they stood quite alone, a shifting blend of styles and ideas, unafraid to rock out or display their blues and R&B credentials. They also showed an amazing mastery of the medieval, with complex vocal arrangements and time structures that could bewilder, yet never stood in the way of a good tune. Roger Dean designed one of their sleeves. They had an old English font for their logo, and that may have kept a few away who thought they were far too nonny for them. Nothing could have actually been further from the truth. For those who got it, their music was a compendium of ever-giving joy. Formed in 1970 from the ashes of a pop psych band, and then adding a blues guitarist and a graduate from the Royal College of Music, they went on to work for a decade, releasing 11 studio albums and gaining a select but fervent band of fans around the world. They put a statement on one of their album sleeves which said, "It is our goal to expand the frontiers of contemporary popular music at the risk of being very unpopular." One album sleeve they had listed 46 separate instruments they played. One of their tunes has gone on to be sampled by the US alt rapper Twisted. Die Motherfucker Die, I'm sure some of you are familiar with that. In certain circles, a mention of their name today is still like some prog Masonic handshake. Although I can now look on Wikipedia and glance and try and fathom out contrapuntal, and I've heard a great deal of music far more pretentious than theirs, hearing them takes me effortlessly back to the time when through them I was introduced to both words. They are still rather fabulous. It is an absolute pleasure to announce the recipients of this year's Progressive Music Awards Lifetime Achievement Honour. To accept their award, Mr. Derek Shulman, Mr. Ray Shulman and Kerry Minear. Ladies and gentlemen, the winner, Gentle Giant.
Thank you. That was pretentious. I can't multitask, I'm sorry. Give me a second. Ray actually, I said, what am I going to do? He actually texted me what I'm supposed to say right now. So I just want to thank the people at Universal who've been very responsible for us to be here. Daryl, thank you very much for helping out here. I want to thank the people who actually were there at the beginning when we were moving from Simon Dupree and the Big Sound to Gentle Giant, and some people who some of you probably don't know, but I want to tell you about them. There was a guy called Olaf Weiper who signed the band to Vertigo in the very early days of 1970. Jerry Braun, our original manager, who actually spent 1 year from Simon Dupree to Gentle Giant investing his money into putting this band together without any concept of what we would become or who would become. So in this day and age, doing that says a lot. Tony Visconti, who produced our first record, first two records actually. The first one we had no clue how to do it, what to do. I'm going to prattle on a bit. If I speak too long, just say stop, get out of here, get the cane. But Tony was incredibly proactive. We looked at every move he made on the first album, and then on the second album, Ray and myself and Kerry and the band started looking at his shuffles and said, after the second record, Acquiring the Taste, we jumped in and said, we can do it ourselves, it's okay. Terry Ellis, who was our first real manager after the band has said worldwide artist, I'm sorry. Rupert Perry, who signed the band to Capitol in North America. Martin Russian, who was an incredible engineer and co-producer who worked with us on Octopus, which we you just saw from Roger's art. We're actually re-releasing with Stephen Wilson again. Stephen remixed it for us. It's coming out in the fall. Just a little plug. And Prog Magazine and Jerry Ewing and your staff, thank you very, very much. Honestly, it's amazing that we're here for our Lifetime Achievement Award when we were only together for 10 years. I hope everyone out here still working and still doing after all these years are not too pissed off at us. You know, I want to just say that I want to thank three bands that were very important for us in our 10-year career. The first band I have to say, were incredibly magnanimous. Ian Anderson and Jethro Tull. Ian invited us to go on the road and take us on tour in North America and in Europe, all over Europe. And that was the point in early 1972 where we started breaking through in certain territories like Italy, Germany, Canada, and becoming fairly important in our own right. And they were friends then, and they're still friends now, and Ian and ourselves are still very good friends. Another band that is important to us was Black Sabbath. We toured, believe it or not, with Black Sabbath in North America, and we learned the highest end of debauchery that could be ever seen on the road, honestly. And lastly, the last artist was Jimi Hendrix. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because we were told when we first started we're going to tour, this is literally early in 1970, 71, we're going to tour with Jimi Hendrix. And Ray and myself said, what do you mean Jimi Hendrix? Jimi Hendrix he died a couple of years ago. This is our first agent. And the agent said, no, we've got something going on. I said, okay, what is it? So in fact, there was a tour we laid out in front of us. And in fact, what it was that we were going to play support to a Jimi Hendrix movie. So that was our first tour. So literally, we actually played support to the movie. We played our set, and then they put the screen up, and the Jimi Hendrix movie was played. So that's just to give you a perspective of what you have to do to get to where you have to go. That was a very interesting point, just for myself anyway. I want to thank everyone here and the people at Prog Rock and Jerry and yourselves. And personally, I want to say one thing. I'm personally honored to be a part of the band that two musicians who are the most brilliant and creative people that are standing on stage with me are part of. Ray, my brother, and Kerry Amanier, the most brilliant musicians you could ever have in the band. Thank you very much. Thank you. You probably know the name of the winner. It's been released to the media. I first heard his magical music. I've been trying to rack my brains. I think I've probably been about 10 years old. And thanks to a school friend, Gary Mackenzie, who Jerry knows, I was persuaded to get hold of Selling England by the Pound. My parents, it was our first holiday abroad. We had an Allegro car. We drove through France and Spain. And the cassette just endlessly turned around. It went from side one to side two. We had that album on for 3 weeks. It's just my sister, my mother, my late father. It was part of our being. And from there, well, so many of us know their music, Genesis. More recently, because it's Tony Banks of whom I speak, I was given the compilation A Chord Too Far, and in there, not only do you get a chance to look back at the solo works from back in the day, but there's also, I have to say, some wonderful modern classical music in there as well. Gosh, I can't actually believe what I'm about to say this, but before we bring Tony to the stage, before we bring our special guest presenters to the stage, have a look at this.
I actually thought about doing a solo album before Trick of the Tail. So I did it and, I wrote Curious Feeling. And I just wanted to try it, I suppose. I thought, well, I can do this. And also, I'm not very good at delegating. I quite like that. I don't really want anyone else to do it,
The fires are burning in another land. But don't start counting.
I always like to throw in a bit more sort of thinking kind of music in there. Did long songs and tried to do a few things that were slightly more, slightly less predictable, if you like. We were played everywhere. When we played live, the songs that have really stood out on things like Domino and Home by the Sea, which are probably the classic songs from the later period.
Pictures of sorrow, pictures of delight, things that go to make up a life.
Stick it, I think, for long enough, No, I loved it. It was great having hits. It was extraordinary. And you knew it couldn't last, actually. The idea of singing, I kind of sung on demos and things, I knew I hadn't got a great voice, but something about doing it. I thought I ought to do it one time and see what would happen, really. Lost in a world. It's a bit like when you're diving into a swimming pool, once you've left the side, you know you've got to go in, I like, it's a thing that I like doing and some people like to hear from.
To present Tony Banks with his award is our special guest presenter, a man who, with Tony and in his solo career, has provided much of the soundtrack to my life and probably many of your lives as well. He already drinks ambrosia with the gods. It's Peter Gabriel.
In a world in which all keyboard players were called Nigel, had a degree in mathematics, and looked to the ceiling while talking to you, it was a momentous moment when this man arrived. A comet had appeared, sprinkling the sky with its sparkly tail above the town of Battle, East Hoathly, more precisely, near Hastings. Last time this had happened, things didn't work out too well for a certain King Harold, a man who was always losing things. And in this case, he lost his sight and his life simultaneously. The next time the comet came round, it was to herald the birth of a future god, a prog rock god. I started writing with this man, I think when we were about 15 years old, and a school, which was a sort of traditional, repressive public school, music was our big escape. And in fact, I think my mum's guest book, still the most number of visits recorded are by a certain A.G. Banks, because we used to go out on the weekends and try and concoct whatever things we could come up with. And I'm still generating feedback. But we've always had a different approach to a lot of things. Tony's been best friend and worst enemy all wrapped up in one. Normal band politics at their best. I mean, one of the things we'd argued about was the length of the keyboard solos, because they would start in prehistoric times and move swiftly into the future. And how long can a singer be expected to wiggle his bum and shake a tambourine? You have to think of the suffering involved. So whenever I could, I would interject little bits of vocal over which we'd argue frequently, because I was scuffing up his beautiful masterpieces. But we were idealist perfectionists, and I was the mug up the front who had to try and keep the audience entertained. And also, we differed on how to present ourselves. When I was trying to dress up as a flower and a sexually transmitted disease, Tony would be very bold and move from one pastel shade to another in his sweater department. But what we shared was a passion for music, and the singer. This is because I'm still hogging his moment, Have you noticed that? Because in the studio, you know, and you see this with every band, there's the singer just taking the limelight. And there's these other guys sort of twitching around. What's that fucker gonna say now? But I'm gonna have to shut up and hand it over to a man who I think has made his shape on our country's music. He's generated extraordinarily lyrical melodies, wonderful songs, beautiful chord sequences, and I'm very happy and proud still to be able to call him my friend. In fact, he is one of my oldest friends, and when I say oldest, but he is also an extraordinary, exceptional talent that doesn't get the acknowledgement that he really deserves. It's my pleasure to present the Prog God Award to the amazing Mr. Tony Banks.
Yes, well that was all very nice. Now normally, as you noticed with all the people who came up here today, every single one of them actually, one guy came up to the front and he said, "Oh, it's lovely, thanks for this award, this is also wonderful." Well, the other guys sat down and occasionally said things like, "Okay, good," you know. Now I'm one of the guys at the back there. I've done that, well, for 45, 50 years almost, actually. First of all, behind that chap there, who just was fairly rude about me, but, you know, that's okay. And later on with Mr. Collins, who was also... I was going to say something. I don't want to be rude about anybody tonight, okay? But one has to say something about hair, maybe, you know? You know, that's okay, because, you know, he's still got a little bit left, Peter, and probably got slightly more than Phil, I don't know. It is noticeable that keyboard players seem to keep a lot more hair than singers. I don't know why this is, you know. Rick, look at that hair, fantastic, you know. Keith Emerson is not here tonight, but he's still got hair. Talking of keyboard players, you know, I did an interview the other day with an American journalist who said to me, trying to build me up for the interview, he said, "You know, you were voted 12th best keyboard player in the world." And I said to him, "Who the fuck were the other 11? I don't mean that in the sense that I know, to misquote Maggie Smith, there are 11 better keyboard players in Woking. But it just seems to me I couldn't really name that many keyboard players. Anyhow, that's by the by. I think, being serious, and I'm going to be nice about everybody tonight, and from now on I am, I have been very lucky with the people over the years. You know, friendship with Peter, we met when we were 13, started writing songs together, and it seemed to work for us. Anthony Phillips is in the room tonight, and I think he was the one who was really responsible for getting Genesis kind of to the next stage. He wanted to play live. Peter and I really weren't that interested at that stage, and along with Mike Rutherford, we formed the band that became Live. And after, unfortunately, Anthony left the band, which was a tragedy for the group, and I felt one we wouldn't really survive. But we then found Phil Collins, which was quite a lucky find, given that he was brought in as a drummer and ended up being one of the most famous singers in the world later on. And obviously Steve Hackett as well, and I felt that the jigsaw was finally completed with those people in there. And I know that I would not be here without all those people and everything they gave to the group. So that's a fantastic thing for me. I'd like to thank Richard McPhail, he's over there. Friend and supporter from the beginning, and was very encouraging when Ant left the band to make certain we kept on going. I don't want to name lots of people that most of you haven't heard of, because I know it's not very interesting, but I'm still going to name one or two more. There's Tony Smith down there, has been a manager over the years, who took us from being a very untogether group to being what we later became, I suppose. And I'd also like to draw attention to someone who's likes the limelight even less than me, since I probably won't be up in this sort of position ever again. I'm going to mention my wife, Margaret, because she won't thank me for that, I'm afraid, but anyhow, there you go. Anyhow, the other thing, I'd just like to talk about the solo career. I've done a lot of stuff independent of Genesis, and for those of you that might be interested in, there is an album called A Chord Too Far. I was going to bring the album up here, but I was told not to do that, which is a compilation which came out very recently, and I think, you know, if you like Genesis, there's a lot of stuff to like there. And there's no other album you're going to hear where you have collaborations with Steve Hillage and Michael Winner on it, let's be honest. So, I think I've said enough. I'm going to go. Thanks very much.
A wonderful way to end a wonderful night. I've done, God dear, my Fleet Street career, I don't know, I do 2 or 3 of these kind of dues a week for 15 years, and I don't think I've ever spent such time in a room with such lovely people, both megastars, ordinary mortals like the rest of us. So it's been absolutely wonderful. Enjoy the rest of the evening. I think the bar's kicking on till 1. I think Jerry's saying on secret buses to the Crowbar for those that to get it on. And thank you, one and all, for a lovely evening. Thank you.